ladies and gentlemen. My name is Roland Pitts, Executive Director here at the Australian Chamber of Commerce in South Korea. It's my pleasure to welcome you to AustCham Korea's special industry roundtable, The Future of Mobility, with our co-host, the Global Green Growth Institute. This video is part 4 of 4 videos with today's special guest, Casey Hyun, who is a future mobility expert. We're talking about the future of designing within the automotive industry. If you wish to watch the full version of this roundtable, I do encourage you to go to AustCham Korea on YouTube or click on the link in the description below. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. It's absolutely fantastic to be part of such a distinguished guest. I kind of dwarfed comparison to some of the very well-known and successful designers and panelists who are participating today. A current trend of the future mobility points towards what we call a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Jeff has pointed out, he was absolutely spot on with his comment about changes. It's something that we have not seen in over a century. So this prime chance must be capitalized now for continued growth of the mobility industry. So prologue, we talk about everything, as Jeff mentioned, everything is related to COVID pandemic. It's been on for about a year and a half, but believe it or not, the sales of EV electric vehicles by numbers and percentage of growth have both increased. And it is expected that the sales will continuously increase in exponential growth for the at least next decade or so. So until the end of 2020s, until 2030s, you can expect a steady and very healthy growth of EV sales by both numbers and vehicle numbers. In 2020, just last year, 14 traditional auto manufacturers owned or either controls 54 brands. However, at the same time, there are over 400, I actually counted this myself, 400 EV and alternative energy mobility brands around the world, which produce road registered vehicles. So believe it or not, over 400 EV startups, alternative energy startups, have actual registered vehicles on road last year. And this was the largest number of auto brand registered in a year over a century. So since the end of World War I, we have seen the greatest number of EV and alternative energy vehicles registering their vehicles to be driven on road. And as history suggests, a market saturation and vacuum of power, it usually signals something, a major breakthroughs or segment reorganizations or a great revolutionary changes. And as you can see from the news you've read, you've seen end of last year, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles and PSA Group have merged into a new company called Stellantis. So I've actually forecasted this early last year. 2 things would happen. One of them will be pivoting their core business, or number 2 was merge or form an alliance, not just for survival, but for thrive as well, which just happened. So 2021 is vital for mobility industry. I believe changes never seen before is set to hit in the next 5 years. So just going very quickly through to the what we call obstacles for mobility design innovation. The reason I said 2020 is significant is not just because of the numbers. It just sounds good, 2020. But 2020 actually signals 250th year of the invention of the first, what we call modern automobile. So steam engine, which was developed in 1769 or 1770, depending on the historian, the different perspective historians. Its first innovation was to replace power source, but the overall vehicle structure and architecture has not changed since the first development of this steam train in 1769, 1770. So engine at the front wheels, and the front row of the seat right behind the front wheels, and the rear wheels and platform and what we call chassis. It has not changed in over 2.5 centuries. And still to this day, electric vehicle design and autonomous vehicle design has stayed largely the same. It's based on cosmetic changes, what we call ornamental changes. And I believe electric vehicle design is more than just automobile plus a plug-in source minus the front grille. I believe the new vehicle design paradigm must possess functional aesthetics, but also brand characterizing identities to differentiate itself from the incumbent. So there are a few changes which I would forecast for the audiences to reference. Number one would be shifting consumer preferences. A lot of people, especially from Australia, there are a lot of consumers are very discontent with the rise of SUVs and crossover body packaging. However, unfortunately, for some of the people who disdain this massive SUVs and crossover vehicles, this trend will continue for much longer period than expected. And the reason why it is set to be the main body style in the future is because it was never out of trend. The SUV vehicle proportion is much closer to the original vehicle proportion from the early 20th century. SUVs are here to stay, so much so that it will almost decimate other body type. I'm being a little bit to the extreme that I believe that a large number of vehicles that we see these days are being what we call very popular and loved by the mass-produced, to the general end consumers, have eerily similar body style and packaging proportion to the vehicles from the turn of the 20th century, that is. The second kind of change that we could expect is of the many future changes possible in the vehicle packaging. Two changes are most likely to be implemented early and permanently. That is the electric vehicles and autonomous vehicle to have much what we call a swooping one box body style compared to what we see previously. As you can see from here, excuse me, the Mercedes-Benz S-Class and its sister vehicle of Mercedes-Benz EQS, you see much of the flowing and swooping one body, one package, one body style. And this is due to the fact that the electric vehicle have much lower center of gravity, allowing more vehicles to add weight to the top half of its frame, also for aerodynamics and also for expression of the future. Expect even premium sedan to follow this package layout, as you can see from the EQS. I have not seen this vehicle in person yet, but I can definitely say the overall vehicle will look much larger than what you actually see from the image. So going to the exterior design, some of the design changes. I believe the exterior design changes for the electric vehicle and autonomous vehicle will be closer to an evolutionary change rather than a revolutionary change. Development of EV design changes will be less prominent, while the changes from the internal combustion engine to electric vehicle will be significant and is significant. And design changes for both tech and perception reason will be slightly slower. So the Lucy there, which was launched recently, it has a very similar packaging to the conventional premium sedan, Hyundai Ioniq 5, which actually shares a much closer, although difference in size, much closer proportion to the traditional 5-door hatchback. And also the Rivian R1T, which is set to be produced sometime soon, sharing its platform with Ford Motor Corporation. The Ford is actually providing the factory manufacturing line as well. But this shows a very similar kind of, almost identical kind of shape as to the pickup truck. Also, this creates a lot of dead space, a space which is created by accident, but also has functionality, but by accident. And also the exterior design will have much flatter, squarer, and boxier style. It's due to because there's a premium on aerodynamic and functionality. And also, as you can see from Jaguar Land Rover projects, an extreme wheel position to the corner as well. Going to the interior very quickly, a free space, cab forward and single seating first row, and also swivel seats and more flexible movement. This is due to the change that we actually see from autonomous vehicles. There's less reason for drivers to actually, passengers to think about what's going on outside, and also the interior as a living space instead of what we call a driving cockpit. And also replace and update, as you can, as a lot of people from tech industry will say, automobile have much longer life cycle than electric products, 3-to-1 ratio. So a lot of interior materials and tech are outdated by the time the vehicle is being sold or vehicle is repurchased. So I believe there's going to be a simpler, minimalistic interior with replaceable and upgradable parts necessary. So external influence that we see right now is, I'm just going to end it very quickly here. These are some of the vehicles. The one on the left is 1960s vision of the future and 2010s vision of the future. A lot of designers do see, and a lot of general public do see as this as a future, and future of the design and how the design is going to change. But as designers are human, we are not free from the cultural and sociological influence that we are given at that certain time of the design development. So in the 1950s and the 60s, these kind of fighter jets and airplanes and speed was at premium. 2010 minimalistic design that we see from Apple was a very strong influence of the designers at that time. So designers are trying to develop something which is new and towards the future, yet we are in some ways limited by the culture and the society that we live in at this moment. So just to conclude, I would like to say definite changes are coming. Hydrocarbon energy will and should be eventually be phased out, and alternative energy source will be hailed as a solution for the future. As the president of managing director of Audi Korea has mentioned, it is definitely going to happen. And it's time for the third revolution of mobility. So the first mobility revolution was about invention of the mobility. The pure invention of horseless carriage was the first revolution. And then came to the second revolution, which provided better quality, desirable products, yet unfortunately without no real technological advancements. But now what we are facing, the third revolution of mobility, will have the greatest impact by overhauling everything which we have known about mobility, automobile, and cars until now. So coming back to the prologue, are we all ready for the future? So thank you very much, and I hope you have enjoyed my presentation. Thank you.